your childhood, what was your relationship like with your parents and siblings?
That was great. Yeah, I was blessed. And everybody has a different upbringing. Excuse me. Warren Buffett, excuse me. Warren Buffett refers to it as the ovarian lottery. Right? We land on planet Earth into some family situation. And in my case, I was very blessed. Landed, I landed into an Irish Catholic family. Married parents, mom and dad never drank, never took drugs, no obvious madness. And there were 5 of us brought up in that environment. There was no money. Hence part of my drive to learn how other people got ahead. Hence my drive to finding out how to build a business, because go back to employees, trade time for money. My dad did that all his life. Most of his life he changed in latter years before his retirement. But but I was blessed. Good people for sure. They taught us all how to work hard. They taught us all. My mother would say, "You get nothing for nothing," right? She also, and we lost her in February, God rest her. But she also said, she encouraged us to make mistakes. The man or the woman who never made a mistake made nothing, she said. And she's right. She also said, there's no pockets in shrouds, you can't take it with you. So she had all these simple ways of describing, don't get too greedy, work hard, make mistakes, it's all right. But you can't take it with you at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's an interesting outlook in life, to be honest. I read a book there called The Growth Mindset by Carol Dweck some time ago. And she was talking about the fact that people with a fixed mindset, if they make a mistake, they take it personally. The person with the growth mindset, they learn from that mistake and they have the resolve and resilience to do it better the next time around. And I think it's that mindset that your mum tried to develop within you and your siblings, in your childhood. You moved on to school. Did you make friends in school easily, or are you one of those people who's kind of stuck in the corner, shy type of student?
No, I made friends easily. I wasn't. I remember, that's good. This fascinating conversation, John. I do remember my memory of my primary school years was I was a wimp. Right, I was small in stature. I was perhaps a little shy. I had my own group of friends, where we lived in North Dublin. We were on the main road on the corner site, and behind us there was a housing estate with a green area for kids to play in. So I had my own little gang there, little being the operative word, and gang is probably too strong a word. Group, right? So
Circle.
But we weren't the cool group, and we weren't the sporting group. We were just our own group. Circle. There you go. Yeah. But school, I enjoyed school in the main, but I was a wimp. And I remember I stayed back in 6th class. I started school very early. My older sister, is 11 months older than me. I'm the second eldest. So I think it suited our mother to get us both out to school at the same time. So I was actually too young. I was probably 4, or even not even 4, when I started junior infants. I can't remember, of course, back then. But I do remember when I got to 6th class, and I'd gone up through all primary school with this group of lads. And when we got to 6th class, Mum and Dad decided to hold me back for a year. I wasn't quite ready for secondary. So I stayed back. And I remember cycling away from school that day, my last day of my first 6th class, right? And crying, because I was never going to see these guys again. But then I remember deciding, I went back into 6th class again, spent a year. Our school, which was in Killester at the time, moved schools over to the top of Sybil Hill and the Holt Road on the corner there, not St. Paul, St. Bridget's, and I was in the first cohort of kids to move into that building. That was fun. But I remember, and then I got a place in St. Paul's College in Raheny, which was just directly across the road. And Mum and Dad were dead proud of that their son had managed to get a place in St. Paul's College. Apparently, it was a big deal. And but I do remember making a decision, John, that having the realization that I could be anything I wanted to be in secondary, because these kids didn't know me from Adam, right? There was no history, no history of my wimpiness. So I decided that I needed to find my way. And as it happens, this was in the mid-70s, right? This would have been 75 or thereabouts. And the hippie era was coming in. And so I just, by the time I got to sort of junior cert, I was a fully fledged hippie. I had my long hair. The school actually, to aid my plan, if you like, the school, in their infinite wisdom, decided the year I started in St. Paul, they were going to disband with the school uniform because I don't know what the logic was. It might have been elitist, or there were parents that couldn't afford it, or whatever. I have no idea. But anyway, we were able to go in our civvies, right? See, all these youngsters in blazers who were ahead of us in school.
Yeah.
But we were in civvies. And then it was obviously a mistake, because the very next year they went back to the uniform. So we're the only year that went up right through secondary in our civvies. That suited a hippie like me. I could wear what I liked, and I did. And I wore some atrocious stuff, unashamedly. And but it was fun. It was fun, and so I became this hippie in secondary school, and it gave me an identity. And going back to having no money, right? And this is no reflection on my parents at all. They were hard working, but we were not rich by any stretch. And there was 5 kids, and they never had a bank loan, and they never had credit cards and all that type of stuff. But they lived within the means. Another thing my mother tried to teach me, where she failed miserably goal. But I decided being a hippie, you'll find this interesting, I think, allowed me be poor in a cool way. We'd buy all my clothes in the Dandelion Market secondhand, right? So I had no money, so spent what little money I had on secondhand gear, and sure, it suited the thing perfectly. And the biggest challenge then was when I entered the workforce in 1980, and realized I had to cut my beloved hair. It had become my trademark.
Yeah. I do have memories of school myself, and like yourself, Colm, I stayed back a year. I stayed back in second year in secondary school because, like yourself, I was young starting school. I was just about 4 and 2 months, I think it was, when I started primary school, I should say, and I was way too young. Nowadays, of course, kids start school at 5, which is a better age, I think, overall. And they also have transition year in secondary school for a lot of children between junior cert and first year leaving, which I think gives kids a time to think about where they want to go with their careers, gives them an extra year to mature as people. Yeah. Good idea overall, I think, yeah. But I do remember I went most of my way through school without the school uniform. And I think it was in 3rd year in secondary school when the school uniform was introduced, and it took away my individuality. And I'm very much individual.
What a magic.
Yeah.
We became a homogenized group,
Yeah. Never felt comfortable in the school uniform. And the day I finished my leaving cert, it was thrown away.
Originally, it was just,
yeah.